India's potential growth has lowered considerably from its highs, with the GDP now at a 9-year low. Roopa Kudva, Managing Director and CEO of Crisil, joins us to talk more about the state of the economy. Roopa, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour. Most non-government economists and brokerages have downgraded their FY13 GDP targets. What's your own estimate? Is 7% looking doable now?
Crisil has recently revised its growth forecast for financial year 12-13 to 6.5%, which is the same level at which the numbers came out for the previous year. So we really aren't seeing any pickup in growth, and we expect growth to be flat. The chief issues that are relevant at this point in time from an economy perspective really are the high levels of fiscal deficit. If growth comes down is at 6.5%, we are actually forecasting that the fiscal deficit therefore will rise to a level of 5.8%. The other area of concern for the economy at this point is inflation. While inflation is expected to come down from the 8.8% average levels of last year, we are forecasting that for the current year, it will end up at an average of about 7%, which is still fairly high and way above the comfort of the policymakers. Another issue from an economy perspective that is something that we are closely monitoring is the level of investments. Clearly, that's an area of concern, as gross fixed capital formation a few quarters ago, as you are all aware, came down to the level of zero. And I think what is constraining investments is really the current policy environment, with lack of clarity on several key aspects, particularly in the infrastructure sector, be it acquisition of land, be it access to sources of fuel, be it environment linkages, and so on and so forth. And the final issue, I think, which is something we need to keep a close eye on, is the level and the volatility in the rupee. So these are the 3 or 4 areas which are the key monitorables from an overall economy perspective. But as far as GDP growth is concerned, we have brought down our forecast from the 7% level that we had projected earlier to 6.5% now.
Okay, so a downward revision to 6.5%, and as you pointed out, several headwinds to contend with. But Roopa, last year we saw a record number of companies going the CDR way. Given the slowdown in the economy and the global uncertainty, do you anticipate the situation getting worse this year?
Crisil has actually published a study where we have forecast that over 2012 and 2013, the total loans going in for restructuring would be 2 lakh crores or 2 trillion rupees. What is very different qualitatively about the loans going in for restructuring this time as compared to what happened in 2008 is that the average ticket sizes of the loans are much higher. So this time it is the larger accounts that are going in for restructuring. In fact, 65% of the loans that we are saying will go in for restructuring have a ticket size of 1,000 crores and above. So qualitatively, not only is the number 2 lakh crores, but also the significant majority of these loans are large ticket loans.
Well, that's a worrying number. 2 lakh crores, that's the figure that Crisil is anticipating is likely to go in for restructuring in 2012-13. Roopa, asset quality of banks has been a concern. With the current situation, is the banking sector looking a lot more vulnerable this fiscal?
I think with the restructured loans, we are forecasting that at 2 lakh crores, that will be about 3.7%. We are forecasting NPA levels also to rise to a level of 3.2%, which is in addition to the 3.7% of restructured loans. So clearly asset quality is under pressure. However, I think from an overall balance sheet perspective, I think because the banking system as a whole is well capitalized, the level of risk is not all that high from our perspective. However, there is no doubt that margins are under pressure. Growth is slowing down, as both credit growth and deposit growth, and rising asset quality costs will further put pressures on the bottom lines of banks.
Okay, so besides banking, Roopa, which are the other sectors that look vulnerable to you?
The banking industry, I wouldn't say is vulnerable at this point in time. Clearly, the pressures are higher compared to last year, but the banks are well capitalized. The sectors where we are seeing stress are areas like airlines, areas like textiles, the power sector, particularly where the distribution companies are concerned or the new generation companies are concerned, and real estate, particularly commercial real estate.
All right, aviation, power, those were the obvious sectors. Roopa, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour with your thoughts. Let's hope that things actually do turn around, at least as we pointed out earlier in our top story, for the power sector, with some sort of a bailout package for discoms at least being looked at. But up